You are listening to the Technical Foul Podcast for Tuesday. Yeah, that's right. Tuesday. It's weird. It sounds weird to record on a Tuesday. But anyway, Tuesday, August 14th, 2018. I am your host, Manny Fresh. And, yeah, man, coming at you in an early week edition of the Technical Foul Podcast. Usually we record on Sundays or Mondays, sometimes Saturdays, but primarily Sundays and Mondays. So recording on a Tuesday is kind of weird. I think we've done it a couple times in the almost 2-year history of the show. Because we started out, I mean, for those of you that have stuck around since the beginning, you know, we started out recording on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and then we moved to the weekends. And, you know, I don't think we haven't done too many Tuesday shows. So it's kind of interesting to do like an early week show. You know, Monday still feels a little bit too much like the weekend from a sports news perspective. Tuesday's like, it feels like the start of the week. You know what I mean? Like from a sports news cycle, you know, Monday, you're still kind of dealing with the ramifications over the weekend. Tuesday is like the official start of the sports news week or per se. So, you know, it's interesting to do a podcast, you know, today. But anyway, yeah, man, had some things come up this weekend, so I couldn't do the show. I had to go to a wedding and had some other things that, came up. So, you know, figured I'd bump the show a couple days, and I was going to do it yesterday, but, you know, I figured I just decided to do it today. I don't know. Just weird. I didn't have the energy to do it yesterday. I was kind of researching some topics because, I mean, it's a slow news. I mean, I'm not really into, I mean, baseball, we have some things to talk about in baseball, obviously, and we're going to get to that, but I can't get into NFL preseason just yet. For me, I really start kind of getting in preseason mode really by that third game, you know, that third preseason game. Cause even the games this weekend don't really interest me that much. I mean, I'll pay attention. Like when the Jets this weekend, I know Sam Darnold played well and I paid attention to that, obviously. But you know, it wasn't appointment television. Like, you know, it's cool. Football is back. You get the preseason games. You get all excited. I get it, but the first two preseason games are not that great. You know, they're kind of, well, really the first two and the last preseason games are kind of just bore snorefests. I mean, they're boredoms. The third game is what really means anything. You know, that's the game that, you know, a lot of coaches are, you know, it's basically cut down day. A lot of coaches are finalizing their rosters. The starters play at least the majority of the first half. Some teams, you know, the majority of their starters play, you know, 2.5 quarters, almost 3 quarters. So, you know, that third game is where you really kind of get to see your team in action, really for the first time, you know, outside of the regular season, of course. That's where you really kind of get to see, okay, what's this team going to look like? What's the quarterback playing like? If you have a young team and, you know, a team that you're evaluating a young quarterback and those things. So that's the game where I really kind of pay attention in the preseason. You know, the first two games, I mean, I'll be into the games this weekend a little bit. Like, again, I always browse around and I check them out, but you know, to sit there and say I'm going to watch 4 quarters of preseason football, like, nah, not really doing that. So not even going to lie to y'all and tell you I'm doing that. So from a sports news perspective, there wasn't a lot to talk about besides the baseball. I mean, unless you're all hot and bothered about James Harden being, you know, allegedly involved in an incident in a nightclub. So I'm not really into that. Don't know all the details of that yet, so I'll reserve my judgment on that until some more information comes out. But I've been peeping this Maryland situation, and this situation is interesting. It's interesting from a lot of different layers, and the first layer is that this is another Big Ten program that's in trouble. Now you have 3. I don't want to say 3 major. 2 majors. Maryland's not a major Big Ten. I still don't even believe Maryland's still in the Big Ten. I still can't believe that Maryland's in the Big Ten. That doesn't seem right. Maryland should be in the ACC. We all know that, but that's another rant for another day. Anyway, so 2 big time programs in the Big Ten, and then obviously you have Maryland, who's a, you know, middle of the pack, program in the Big Ten. 3 programs in the Big Ten in trouble with kind of similar issues. I mean, obviously you have the Michigan State situation, with the culture of just rape and criminal activity at that program, going from Larry Nassar to the football team, you know, to allegations of rape and assault and just vile things that have gone on at Michigan State. I still don't understand how Mark D'Antonio and Izzo have jobs. I really don't. Like, those guys must have like legit dead bodies in their backyards or some shit. Like they must have secrets, secrets for days on the Michigan State, board of trustees or something. Like, I don't know. I still don't. And I know that they're big time coaches in their respective sports and they've had a lot of success, specifically Izzo. But still, that report came out and I did a show and I remember I did a show with Kyle and we both just felt like, bro, I don't see how both of these coaches survive. I mean, I really don't. I mean, this is ugly. Those guys have managed to survive. We still haven't heard anything on Ohio State. That investigation is still ongoing, but obviously you have the Ohio State situation, with Urban Meyer and, the cover up and, the negligence in part of the Ohio State coaching staff when it came to dealing with Zach Smith and his domestic violence issues. So you have that issue. And then you have this issue, the death of Jordan McNair, the offensive lineman, freshman who died after, basically complications from heat stroke after he collapsed on the football field, the day of May 29th. Was not properly treated, was dealing with exhaustion and things of that nature, and then eventually died. I believe he died like maybe a week or two, 10 days later, something like that. I don't know the exact date, but I know he died after sometime in June. And ESPN about a week ago, broke the story of a toxic culture at Maryland, with the strength and conditioning coach being involved and DJ Durkin just basically promoting this culture of just, basically just fucking just extreme boot camp culture, this of just nasty things going on, verbal abuse, physical abuse in some cases, long practices, extreme, just really extreme stuff. So, the Maryland situation is interesting. And look, I think that us as fans and people who follow the sport, broadcasters, journalists, whatever, I think we look at these scandals and I think we try to slice them up into different segments. What does this scandal mean for college football or college basketball or college sports in general? What does the scandal mean for the program? What does the scandal mean for the student athletes, et cetera, et cetera. So we try to look at it from different angles. And I think that the interesting thing with this one is you're dealing with the death. You're dealing with a death. This is different than, violating some antiquated ass NCAA violations. This is different than, a kid, doing something stupid, getting a DUI or something. This is a situation where a player died on the football field. You could basically say as a result of a negligent and, malicious coaching staff. And when you have that trumps almost a lot of things. Besides maybe, well, no, it doesn't really. Cause even a controversy to the level of maybe like fixing games or throwing games, even that doesn't compare to this shit. Because again, you have a player that died on a football field under the care and the supervision of athletic coaches, assistant coaches, and of course, DJ Durkin, head coach of the football team. And when you have that, I think that trumps anything. That trumps anything that has to do with this, with any kind of scandal, with any kind of issue that's going on in college sports. And there really is no, even in the Ohio State, there's people that'll try to defend, Urban Meyer. There's people that'll try to defend, there's people on the side of Urban Meyer. There's people on the side of Shelley Smith or whatever, or the side of everybody else that said they should fire Urban Meyer and Urban Meyer, has some culpability. There's differing sides to that story. And you can find a lot of issues, throughout college sports and, issues, scandals, whatever you want to call them, where there'll be some contention. There'll be, two sides that have a very valid argument. In this case, I don't think there's any argument. There's nothing to really argue about. This is a coach and this is a coaching staff that has fostered an unhealthy culture, a culture that has produced, and I don't think I'm being unfair by saying this, produced death. So even if you're the biggest Maryland booster, you really have no ammo. You You really have nothing to combat this with. I mean, what are you going to say? DJ Durkin's getting railroaded. DJ Durkin doesn't, this is your, I listen to talk radio and some Maryland people like, this isn't, ESPN is making this bigger than what it is. And ESPN is trying to sell, and that's bullshit. Look, somebody died. Like, I don't want to hear that ESPN is blowing this up or ESPN is trying to make this bigger than what it is. A kid died. That's it. Like, there's nothing else to say about this. A kid died on a football field. That kid's family will never see their son, their cousin, their brother, their nephew ever again. And that happened because of the University of Maryland. And the school president today came out, took full responsibility. Full responsibility. Now, I'm not going to give him too much credit. I know a lot of people were giving him credit, what a great response, blah, blah, blah. I'm not giving him credit. First of all, why did it take almost 3 months for this situation to even, for this situation to come to light, for this investigation to happen? I can make the case, if I'm cynical, that maybe if ESPN hadn't done some reporting and digging and brought this story to the light, who knows? Maybe none of this happens. Maybe DJ Durkin isn't placed on administrative leave. Maybe the strength and conditioning coach isn't, mutually parted ways with. Maybe none of this happens. Maybe none of this is blown up to the proportion that it has. So the cynic in me and the cynical in all of us in a lot of ways, I don't think you could look at this situation and say, Maryland's being this progressive program and this progressive, school and taking charge and taking responsibilities. And it's nice. I'm glad that they did take responsibility, because it's a lot better than a lot of schools and a lot of programs do, especially when situations like this. Everybody wants to find some out, some scapegoat or something, we didn't know, blah, blah, blah. No, Maryland went up there. They owned up to it. Now they were forced to, because this report is pretty damning. And not to mention, it's hard to contest against a kid that died on a football field. Complications of heat stroke. So, and then you got obviously former players and people coming out and speaking out on Maryland and that culture. So people have verified this. And the problem that this case and cases like this have is, number one, first of all, this idea that this is just an isolated incident, or that this is just at Maryland, or Maryland is maybe one of a few schools that do this. It's bullshit. This goes on all the time. I'm not going to say every school. I'm not going to say every program, but this goes on a lot more than I think a lot of people want to admit, to varying degrees. I think that these coaches think that football is like basically getting ready to fight, in Afghanistan. And that's always been an issue. I think that, I know that football is a tough sport, and it's a gladiator sport in a lot of ways. And I think that there has to be a preparation that exceeds far more physical and mental challenges than you will ever face in any other sport. I get that. But I think that there is an extreme, just like anything, there's extremes. There's levels to this shit. And I feel like a lot of coaches have at times, teetered on that borderline. They have teetered on that edge. And I think that there's a lot of programs that I think are worried about what this investigation will lead to, and what the outcome of this Maryland situation will be, because I think it's going to cause a lot of these programs to change how they do things. I think it's going to make it a more watchful eye on how these universities and how these programs and how these football teams are conducting practices and trainings and, hiring these nut job strength and conditioning coaches. I mean, it's ridiculous, but the more important thing for me and where I come out of this is anybody surprised? I know that this sounds like a broken record for me, because anybody that's listens on the show, I'm always killing the NCAA. I'm always killing college sports, because I always, I call college sports as a cesspool. And I've always said that college sports is a cesspool. And this is another case that proves it. We all like to have this myth that college sports is this beacon of scholastic amateurism, the purity of sports, where, it doesn't have the politics and the money and the jadedness of of professional athletics, that college sports it's more about the purity and the sanctity of the sport. That bullshit myth that's been peddled out there since the beginning of time. We all know that college sports is no different than any other entity, any other business out there. They're about making money. And these coaches and these programs are about winning and making money. And they're a symbiotic relationship. They're mutually beneficial relationships. The more you win, the more money you make. The more money you make, the more the pressure it is to win. It is what it is. And I've said it year in and year out. These coaches, they preach about being leaders of men and building, strong, wonderful young men. And that's all fine and dandy. And I'm sure that there's a part of them that do believe that do feel that responsibility. And I'm not going to say that every coach is like this. I'm not going to say that. But I think that there's a large amount of coaches that all they care about is winning. All they care about is winning, money, power, and stature. That's all they care about. That's all they care about. They care about winning games. And there's some people out there that'll say, well, you know what? That's all they should care about. These coaches get paid to win games. And I completely agree with you. To a certain extent. I think that coaches do get paid to win games. But I also think that there's a responsibility as a head coach, as a college coach, when you go visit a family, when you sit in someone's living room, and as a parent myself, I'm entrusting my child to you. I'm entrusting my young man to you, my 17, 18-year-old, to leave the nest, leave home, and go play for your program, whether he plays in state, whether he goes out of state. Like, I'm entrusting him to you, for you to take care of him. That's a special request that any parent is making right there. I'm entrusting you with the care, with the health and the well-being of my child. And that goes beyond money, that goes beyond wins, that goes beyond power and stature. And these coaches for a long time, and these athletic programs have proven that they'll put almost anything behind winning. Anything. These programs don't care. They want to win. They want to win, and these coaches want to win. These coaches want to win, and they want to win at all costs. And in part, I don't blame them. These coaches get 3 years, maybe at most 3 years, and they're already trying to shit can them. Already. It's a lot of pressure, these jobs. A lot of pressure. But when is it enough? When is enough? When is, you know what? Safety has to take priority. There has to be something more important than just winning football games. And I know some people will say, well, you're being an extremist, blah, blah, blah. Not all coaches think that, da, 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 da. And again, I'm saying, I don't think every coach is like that. I don't think every coach is like that. I think there's some legitimate coaches out there that want to really make a difference in young men's lives. I think they want to nurture and tutor and mold young men that are going to be productive members of society, not just great football players or basketball players or baseball players or cricket players or whatever. I think there's a large group of those folks, but I also think there's a large group of coaches that they're in it for the money, for the fame, for the power, for the stature that it represents. I don't think you can argue that. Look at the situation in college basketball with Louisville. Rick Pitino has proven that he doesn't care about, molding young men. He doesn't care. Rick Pitino can sit there and preach all he wants about, he wants to, mold young men and build leaders and blah, 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 blah. Hey, that's all fine and dandy, Rick. Bottom line is, your program basically had a whole house being ran out of the fucking building named after your brother-in-law. And don't tell me you didn't know about it. Don't tell me you didn't know about it. And he let it slide? Not to mention, and I'm not even talking about the Adidas scandal and the money that was paid to Brian Bowen. Why did this all happen? Why was this all up? Because there's this culture of winning at all costs. Hey, we want to get players to Louisville? Hey, what do we got to do? Oh, okay. Give them some chicks, open up a brothel, bring in some strippers, some hoes, whatever. Let's get these kids right, blah, blah, blah. Hey, that's a hell of a recruiting tool. And I'm not saying that Rick Pitino was in there, basically ordering chicks off the menu, ordering chicks off the site. I'm not saying that, but I think there has to be an accountability for a coach. And that's the other thing that I always struggle with fans of universities and fans of programs. Oh, the head coach gets too much blame in these situations. They should. Head coaches get too much power. Head coaches, this again, it goes to the power and stature situation. You look at some of these coaches, and like Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer is a god in Ohio State. A god. I think he's won like 90% of his games at Ohio State. He's won a national championship. He's got them in a perennial power year in and year out. He's a god at Ohio State. He might be the second most powerful man in the state. Behind John Kasich. Might be. And depending on your political affiliation, Urban Meyer might be more powerful than John Kasich. Or more important. So this idea that coaches get too much blame and, how are you going to fire DJ Durkin? And I'll get to Will Muschamp's moronic comments in a second. But this idea that these coaches get too much blame and that, there's too much emphasis put on coaches and what they know or don't know. It's bullshit. When you make $4 million a year, you know what? I don't want to hear about, I didn't know. I didn't know that this was going on. I didn't know that this was happening. Gee, golly willikers. How am I supposed to know that guys are getting tattoos? Oh, gee, golly willikers. How am I supposed to know that guys are raping chicks, all across campus? And again, if it's one situation, one isolated situation, it's one thing. Hey, you know what? Maybe Coach so-and-so didn't know. But when there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 kids, multiple arrests, multiple kids getting in trouble, I kind of find it hard to believe that you didn't know. And a head coach is like a president. Somebody in your administration does something fucked up. I don't want to hear about, I didn't know. Hey, what do you want me to do? I didn't know. Ronald Reagan. I didn't know. I didn't know Oliver North and, and my security team and some of my staffers were selling illegal weapons to Iran and, getting the profits of that to fund a party to overthrow a government in Nicaragua, funding the Contras. I didn't know. What do you want me to know about that? And the answer I always give, if you didn't know, you should know. With that power, with that money, with that stature, with that success, with that level of success, comes that level of accountability, of responsibility. I don't want to hear about, I didn't know. I don't want to hear DJ Durkin say, well, I didn't know that the strength and conditioning coach, which is bullshit because the strength and conditioning coach, let me get the guy's name, but the strength and conditioning coach was DJ Durkin's boy. DJ Durkin on many occasions has been quoted as saying the guy's probably, his right-hand man on the coaching staff. More so than the DC, more so than the OC, the strength and conditioning coach. So this idea that, I didn't know, how am I supposed to know that this was going to happen? That's not an excuse. It's not an excuse. I think his last name is Clout. I'm trying to find the name of it. But anyway, these coaches are funny. See, they want the money. They want the fame. They want the power. They want the stature. But they don't want the accountability and the responsibility. They don't want that part. No. I got to be responsible for everything, and I got to take accountability when things don't go right or when shit happens in my program. I got to do that? No, I don't want that. I just want to win. I just want to win my 10 games and make my bowl games time to time, make a BCS or a championship bowl and keep this train moving. That's what they want. But they can't have it both ways. And that's the problem that these coaches run into. And the problem at the end of the day is that college sports is just a cesspool. It is what it is. And this is not just a college football thing. This is college basketball. When the scandals came out over the summer about Louisville and last year about, Louisville and all that shit, I said it's not a college basketball thing. It's a college football thing. Both sports are dirty. Both of them. Both of them. You guys really think that this shit is only going on at Maryland? No. And I'm sure that if there was Twitter and Facebook and SB Nation and Bleacher Report and this and all the media outlets that there are now, I'm sure if they were back in the 60s and the 70s back then, I'm sure there was some shit that would have gone down back then too. But I'm not going to sit here now and run to praise Maryland. Maryland handled this ridiculously. First of all, this happened in June. We're just investigating and getting an answer and an aftermath of this now in August, middle August. And again, if you want to be cynical, you could say this only happened because of ESPN's reporting. Who knows? Maybe if ESPN doesn't break this story, who the fuck knows? Maybe we never know. Maybe we never go on to know the full extent of this. Maybe we never know. But I think the biggest problem college sports now faces is that they have to figure out what they want to be. And I say that during every scandal. And I know this is different than a financial scandal in college. I know this is different. But at the end of the day, it all goes back to that same point. College sports needs to figure out what do they want to be? Do they want to be amateurism or do they want to be the Wild Wild West? Do they want to be a professional sports league where things like this are going to happen and you're going to just have to, bear down and take responsibility and basically treat yourselves as a Fortune 500 company? Cause that's what these programs are. You know how much Ohio State is? You know how much money Ohio State makes? Or Michigan State? The Big Ten is the most powerful conference in the country because of the schools, the power that those schools have, the money that those schools make. Michigan, Northwestern, Nebraska, Illinois. You know how much money these programs make? College sports needs to decide what does it want to be. And I've said this, and I know it sounds like a broken record. I've said this many a times. Amateurism is done. That myth that this is all amateurism and that we're just molding young men, that shit has gone by the wayside. It's gone. It's over with. It stopped being credible. It stopped being believable when you got $500 million training facilities on campuses. When coaches started making $10 million a year. When bowl games started becoming the Papa John's Bowl and Amazon is, basically paying $1 billion in naming right fees. That's when it stopped being amateurism. I'm sorry. You can't preach to me about amateurism when you're getting a $500 million check. And you're not getting it from some booster. You're getting it from a fucking Fortune 500 company. To just plaster a name on a stadium. You're getting a check. When Nike's paying these organizations big money just to make their uniforms. Under Armour, Jordan, Adidas, so on and so forth. And anybody that thinks that these things are not going to continue to happen, they're going to still continue to happen. They're still going to continue to happen. Now, I think that this situation in Maryland, I think now raises the spotlight on these things. And I think that now more programs are going to be forced to cut this shit the fuck out. And fire these renegade, these strength and conditioning coaches and these fucking coaches that think that they're basically, Delta Force or Special Forces. That they think that, hey, for kids to be mentally and physically prepared for football, they have to basically, go through Ranger training. So I think more of a light is being, shined on this. But this idea that the scandals and the controversies are going to stop, I don't believe it. At least not me. I don't believe it. Why? Because you have a culture in college sports in general where you have to win at all costs. Even if it means doing unethical things. Even if it means covering up domestic violence. Even if it means covering up child molestation. Rape. criminal activities, even if it means, players getting treated unfairly and improperly from a training and conditioning standpoint. It's win at all costs. See, people, when I say that, people think, oh, well, they want to cheat. But all this stuff is rolled into one. All this stuff is rolled into one. It's this aura, it's this culture, it's this philosophy of we have to win at all costs. We have to be bigger. We have to be faster. We have to be stronger. Why? Because that's how you win. That's how you win. And at the end of the day, winning is the only thing that matters. Winning is the only thing that's the difference between college sports and pro sports. See, pro sports knows what it is. Pro sports knows what it is. They want to make billions of dollars and they want their teams to win. And the only way that they're going to make billions of dollars is by teams winning, players being marketable. And I know it's a little bit different. Philosophically, it's a little bit different in the pros, but essentially it's the same thing. And college sports struggles with this identity of, we're amateurism. We don't care. We just want to go out there. But it's bullshit. It's bullshit when Charlie Strong gets fired at Texas for just being average. Forget being, bad, just average. These coaches, all they care about is winning. They know that when you win, you get paid. And when you get paid, you get power. And when you get power, you get stature and longevity. And along the way, I'm sure they want to, craft relationships with their players and mold young men. I'm not saying that all that is false. I think that's something that they all want to do. But realistically, it's like number 7 on their list. I love Coach K. And I think he's one of the good, and I'm not trying to sound biased here, even though you guys won't believe me. You guys know I'm a dookie, but I love Coach K. And I think that Coach K, genuinely speaking, and generally speaking, and genuinely speaking, I think he's a guy, he's one of the good ones. I think he really believes in leadership and he's written books about it and all that. But let's face it, if Coach K was 8-20 every year, he wouldn't be Coach K. He wouldn't make the money he makes. He wouldn't have the power that he has. He would still even be a Duke. That's been well documented. They almost shit canned him after his 4th season at Duke. So you could talk to me about leadership and philosophy and this, that, and the other. You could talk to me about that till you're gray in the fucking face. At the end of the day, wins, losses. That's all that matters. Wins, losses. Mediocre, crappy head coaches that get fired. Does anybody care about their philosophy? Do people ask them to write books about leadership and molding young men? No. It's the guys that win. Winners tell the best story. Nobody wants to read a book about a loser. Nobody. If you're an Alabama fan, do you want to read a book about Nick Saban and his leadership philosophies, or do you want to read a book about Mike Shula and his leadership philosophies? Simple. Now, I don't know what the aftermath, I don't know what the short-term aftermath of what's going to happen at Maryland. I do suspect that DJ, last week, I talked about, I don't know if I'm 50-50 on whether Urban Meyer loses his job. And I'm still kind of 50-50 on it. I don't get a sense one way or another. Supposedly that this investigation is going to be done here soon. Hopefully, we'll see. But I do think DJ Durkin loses his job. I don't think if you're Maryland, the strength and conditioning coach is gone. To me, that whole entire coaching staff, or the majority of it, has to go. If I'm the school president at Maryland, that head coach cannot come back. If you're DJ Durkin, you cannot coach again. A player died on your watch because of negligence, because of malpractice, because of unsafe working conditions. That happened on your watch. And then on top of that, there's rumors and there's reports that you fostered that culture. He can't keep his job. And I don't believe he will keep his job. I don't believe he'll keep his job. So DJ Durkin's done. And now Maryland's season's in shambles, basically, because now, let's say they lose their head coach. You know, if you fire the head coach, I mean, I know that they've named Matt Canada interim head coach in the time being, but, you know, I think some of those coaches on that coaching staff, and they'll probably survive, but DJ Durkin's gone. So now they've lost their head coach. Now you got scholarship athletes and guys that came there to probably play with DJ Durkin. Now they're sitting back like, whoa, I didn't sign up here to play with Matt Canada. And then now we're in a situation where we don't have our coach and we're in we're in the news every day. We're answering questions about unsafe and toxic, environments and shit like that. I mean, now your season's basically, a dumpster fire. And they got Texas on September 1st. So it's very interesting. It's very interesting. And Will Muschamp, bashing the ESPN report saying, the articles are not credible and, you can't believe in anonymous sources. First of all, Will, shut the fuck up. Okay. How about you worry about winning some fucking games? Who the fuck asks Will Muschamp's opinion anyway? I know that he's tight with DJ Durkin and, he's a mentor to DJ Durkin coach with Will Muschamp. I get that. I understand that. But how about Will Muschamp worry about winning some games? How about that? How about Will Muschamp worry about winning some games? Is there a more overrated head coach than Will Muschamp? I know he's 43-32 for his career, but I mean, he's at best, he's an average head coach. He did nothing at Florida. And so far at South Carolina, he hasn't exactly lit the world on fire. Outside of 1 year at Florida, he did nothing. Nothing. Got his ass handed to him in a sugar bowl against Louisville. Believe it was a sugar bowl. After that, did nothing at Florida. Nothing. Overrated, overhyped. He's a pretty good defensive coordinator, but as a head coach, he sucks. He's a middling coach. He's a middling coach. Somehow he continues to get jobs. So he must have a hell of a hell of an interview and a hell of an agent. He must be a great interview. But I really got to hear Will Muschamp now. Oh, anonymous, reporters have been using anonymous sources since the beginning of time. Legendary stories have been Watergate was broken on anonymous sources. Watergate! Are we going to discredit, Woodward and Bernstein now? Oh, anonymous sources, you can't trust, they're not credible. Shut the fuck up. How about winning some games? How about win something? This is what I want to hear Will Muschamp say. I have no comment. All I know is that a young man died when he shouldn't have. That's what I want to hear. That's what I want to hear Will Muschamp say. A young man died. And as a coach, as an administrator, as a teacher, as a leader, whatever, everyone has to bear some sort of responsibility for that. That's what I want to hear Will Muschamp say. I don't want to hear Will Muschamp wax poetic about his fucking boy DJ Durkin. Oh, DJ Durkin's a great family man and a friend. He may be all those things. But bottom line is, Jordan McNair died on his watch. So I don't want to hear how great of a husband and father and how much he parts the Red Sea and how holy he is and, how Christian and God. I don't want to hear that. Bottom line is, Jordan McNair lost his life because his coaching staff was negligent and malicious. That's it. Nothing else to talk about. So Will Muschamp and any other coach that wants to sit there and defend DJ Durkin or basically knock ESPN. And look, I love knocking ESPN. But the one thing you can't knock about ESPN, when they have a story, when they have something like this, they rarely, they've had some moments, but they rarely ever get shit like this wrong. Rarely. And it's the easy thing to knock the media. Oh, the media, who cares about anonymous sources? If the source was so credible, if that staffer had enough, guts, put your name on. Oh, shut the fuck up. Shut up. Shut up. Win games. First of all, I don't even want your opinion. But if you're going to give it, say the right things. How about mention something about the kid that died? Stick to the overall point that everybody cares about. The fact that is that a kid died and it shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have happened. And your boy, the man that you're trying to defend and basically throw bouquets around, was the head honcho and oversaw the program. And it happened on his watch. That's all that matters. And he can be a great dad. He could be a great this. He could be a great scholar, philosopher, teacher, leader. He basically can cure cancer. That's all fine and dandy. It happened under his watch. Case closed. So I don't pay too much attention to fucking Will Muschamp. Will Muschamp's the problem with college sports. He's the problem. Not to mention, Will Muschamp makes $4 million for Will Muschamp? Again, he's a middling coach. What has he won? He's done nothing. Nothing. Will Muschamp makes $4 million. I wish I could be very average at my job and still make $4 million. Amazing. That nigga has a wonderful agent. Wonderful. Because he continues to fleece college programs into thinking that he's some great coach. I don't know who's worse, him or Lane Kiffin. I don't know who's worse, him or Lane Kiffin. At least Lane Kiffin's at Florida Atlantic. But Will Muschamp's at South Carolina. Wow. Transition over into baseball. It's interesting because right now you got three teams that are really, really struggling to varying degrees. Three teams that I think that at the beginning of the year, most baseball experts, most fans, most people that follow sport would have predicted these three teams to be three of the, the seven big time teams in the sport. And those three teams obviously are the Dodgers, the Yankees, and the Astros, all going through their own sort of struggles. The Yankees last night lost to my Mets. It's amazing. The Mets, it's amazing. As shitty a year as the Mets have had this year, my Mets have had this year, we've actually looked pretty good against the Yankees, all things considered. Like, we've actually played well. Like, the 2 out of 3 that we lost at Citi Field early in the year, we could have easily won both those games. So, I mean, it's interesting when you think about how shitty of a year the Mets have had, and, against the Yankees, they're fucking world beaters. I think we should play, if only we could play the Yankees every day. Who knows? We might be somewhat average. But, anyway, no, the Yankees, I've documented the Yankees, so I won't get into them too far, but the Yankees, they're just not playing well. I know they won tonight. They won against the Rays, but the Yankees haven't played well. Even this past weekend when they swept the Rangers, I wasn't that impressed with the Yankees. They took care of business, so I'm not going to really make too much of it. But I mean, the Yankees have not played well. They haven't played well for a while. They really haven't played well almost 2 months now. And they've got injuries of their own. Obviously, Judge is out. Sanchez is out. They've got a major issue now with Severino. I've always thought Severino's overrated. I don't love Severino. To me, there's something about Severino that would really scare me in a big game, in a big spot. He seems like a fucking hothead. He seems like he's a kid that's got a lot going on in his head. And in big spots, I would be very concerned about Severino. He didn't pitch well in the postseason last year. And this year, after, basically a Cy Young first half, he really hasn't pitched that well. He really has not. He got bombed last night. I mean, when the Mets bomb you, you have problems. When the Mets, who are one of the worst offensive teams I've ever seen in my life, when the Mets bomb you, you have problems. So they've got an issue now with Severino. Sonny Gray has been a fucking disaster, man. Man. The Yankees are gonna rue the day that they traded for Sonny Gray, because Sonny Gray has been an absolute disaster in New York. He's done nothing. He seems like he's one of these guys that just go to New York and just wilt. They can't play in New York. For whatever the reason, just can't get it done. So Sonny Gray's a disaster. CeCe's old and he's on the disabled list. They're banking on J.A. Happ and Lance Lynn to be their saviors. Nice pitchers, average pitchers at best, but when you're banking on J.A. Happ and Lance Lynn to be your saviors in your rotation, you got major issues. Not to mention, I praised them for, going out there and getting Zach Britton. Zach Britton's been fucking awful. He's been terrible for them, which is wonderful. Love it. But anyway, Zach Britton's been fucking terrible. He's given up a run like in all of but one appearance that he's been in with the Yankees. He's just been fucking terrible. The bullpen's, and that bullpen hasn't been as dominant. It's still the best bullpen in baseball, but they haven't been as dominant as they've been, they were last year. That bullpen's had some chinks in the armor. Obviously, Betances has come back and turned himself back into the dominant reliever that he once was, but Chapman's been a little up and down, up and down. David Robertson hasn't been as dominant as he was last year. Canley fell off the fucking map. I mean, Green is still great. Betances is pitching well. So they've got some guys that are pitching well, but I mean, Zach Britton hasn't exactly lived up to the hype. So, the Yankees have issues. The Yankees have real major issues. I talked about it last week, so I won't get into much. But the two teams that I'm really concerned with are the Astros and the Dodgers. Now, I will say I'm more concerned with the Dodgers than I am the Astros because I still think when push comes to shove, I think the Astros will win that division. I still think they're the better team, that they're the best team in that division. And I still think when the money's on the line, the Astros will figure out a way to win that division. But I think if you're an Astros fan, I think you have to be a little bit concerned. They're having a lot of injuries. We all know about Springer. Springer is now out with the thumb. Who knows when you'll see him again? Probably not till the end of the month, probably early September at the most. Altuve's still out. They just got Correa out, or they just got Correa back. He was gone for, almost 3 months. 2.5 months. So, the Astros have some issues, and Ozuna hasn't pitched that great, so much for me saying that Ozuna was a hell of a pickup and fuck the controversy and the more outrage. Ozuna hasn't exactly lit the world up on fire for the Astros either. So, the Astros have some issues. And, when you go in there, the Mariners went in there into Houston this weekend and swept them. I mean, beat them up, really beat them up. The Mariners, who had come into that series basically just dead in the water, just dead, choking. The Mariners were not playing well. I talked about them last week as, maybe the Mariners were going to, basically fall off the map, and they basically resurrected their season by sweeping the Astros. Now I think they're losing tonight to the A's. The A's and the Mariners playing a big time 3-game series. And then of course you got the A's, who just continue to be a juggernaut. I think they're 37-12 since, in the last, 49 games. So it's crazy what the A's have done, man. So the Astros have some worries and have some concerns. The biggest thing for them is just the injuries. I think the biggest thing for them is the injuries. I think that as soon as they get Springer and Altuve, maybe not Springer because, again, Springer's still a little bit of ways away, but as soon as they get Altuve back, Altuve is the heart and soul of that team. Altuve makes that team go. I think that's the biggest thing that I've noticed, in their recent struggles is when Altuve is on, and there's a reason. I mean, he's one of the best players in baseball. He's the MVP. Altuve is a hell of a player. And, he's the heart and soul of that team. He makes that team go. And I think that once they get Altuve back, now they got Correa back now. Once they get Altuve back and eventually get Springer, I still think when push comes to shove, the Astros are going to win that division. Cause I still don't think the A's or the Mariners are better than the Astros. And I think the Astros are still finding a way to win that division. The team I'm really worried about is the Dodgers. The Dodgers have not played well. They just have not played well. I thought the Manny Machado trade would be a spark for them. I thought it was a big move. I still think it's a move that they had to make. But he hasn't exactly lit it up in LA, and they haven't played well. I love the Brian Dozier trade, and Dozier's played well for them, but, they still haven't won. And on top of that, now they have issues with Dozier. He had an issue now, and he's going to probably end up on a DL. And now, Kenley Jansen with this irregular heartbeat. And it's something that he was quoted saying that he might need heart surgery. It's something that he's had before, but, he says it's not major, but I don't know too many people that have heart surgeries and are not major. I'm sorry. That's just me. Anytime you tell me that something's going on with my heart and I have to have surgery, I'm not going to fucking feel like it's not major. So, he's out until September. He says he's going to come back this season. He's going to come back in September. I don't know how you need surgery, but you're going to come back in September. I don't know how you pull that off. I'm not an athlete. I'm not a doctor. I just play one on TV or on a podcast. So I don't know how that happens per se, but, you got to be worried about Jansen, and he's kind of been up and down this year anyway. And and what did I tell you about that guy, that Dodger bullpen? That Dodger bullpen it's just, I don't love that Dodger bullpen. And that rotation's not that great either. Outside of Kershaw, that rotation's not that good. Alex Wood, Maeda, Ryu. I don't love that rotation. That rotation is not that great. That's the one thing that and the Dodgers are in a tough division with the Diamondbacks breathing down their necks, the fucking Rockies breathing, and the Giants are not out of it. And I still think the Giants have a hot streak in them. Now, maybe I have too much respect for Bruce Bochy, and maybe I have too much respect for Buster Posey and Madison Bumgarner and that team that's won 3 championships this decade and that culture there. Maybe. But I still think the Giants have a streak in them. I really do. They're not out of it. I think teams have done a poor job of burying the Giants. The Giants are just kind of sputtering around. And I've seen this movie before. The Giants just sputter around and then they win, 20 out of 25 games and get on a run. So the Giants, I still think, are a dangerous team in this NL wildcard race and this division race too. So the Dodgers are in trouble. Their bullpen sucks. Their rotation's not that great. Kenley Jansen's on a DL. Even though he says he's going to pitch again, I don't know. In a regular heartbeat, that shit would scare the fuck out of me if I'm a Dodger fan. And we know it scares the hell out of Kenley Jansen. He's the one experiencing it. But if I'm Dave Roberts, I don't know if I'm confident. Now, I know in the media, they're not going to say nothing to the media per se, but, privately, I don't know if Dave Robertson is confident that, he's going to get his closer back this year. I can't be confident when in a regular heartbeat. I don't know. Can he come back? Maybe not. I don't know. Now you got Dozier that's out. Machado hasn't done much. Man. I still think the Dodgers will figure out a way to win. I don't know if they'll win the division, but I think the Dodgers will still figure out a way to win a wild card. I don't know. I'm worried about the Dodgers. If the Dodgers don't right this ship soon, I don't know. Cause I just don't love that pitching rotation. I just don't. I don't. But that's the crazy thing about the Dodgers, that all those teams in that division have flaws. All those teams in that division have flaws. I think the Rockies in that bullpen, Wade Davis hasn't been great. Arizona's got its flaws. Obviously we talked about the Dodgers, the Giants, outside of Madison Bumgarner, good luck. Especially with Cueto now on the DL with Tommy John. So all those teams are flawed, but the Dodgers better get it right. They better get it together. Because they could end up being out of the postseason. They really could. And I think the wild card is going to come down to Milwaukee and one of either Atlanta, Philly, Rockies, Diamondbacks. Well, no, shit. Now you got to throw the fucking Cardinals in there. Although I'm not buying the Cardinals. I know Matt Carpenter's. I think that if you're handing out MVP votes right now, I think you almost have to give it to Matt Carpenter. I know Baez has had a hell of a year, but Matt Carpenter and what the fuck he's doing is just. He's been fucking insane. Matt Carpenter's always been a good hitter, but Jesus fucking Christ. Now, he's basically turned himself into fucking Babe Ruth, essentially. But, now the Cardinals are, they've gone on a hot streak now. They're 8 games above 500. Although I don't buy into the Cardinals. The Cardinals have played an easy schedule. So let me see the Cardinals when they play the Cubs again, or when they play the Brewers again, or when they play a big time team. If this run is going to sustain itself. I still don't buy into the Cardinals, but even the Cardinals are still in it. The Cardinals, I think, are only like 1 game behind the Brewers in that division. So, and that's and the good thing about the Dodgers is that the NL is wide open. So even though they're going through a losing streak right now and they're not playing well and they've got some injuries, the Dodgers right now, to me, I think they could withstand that because I think that the NL is so wide open and I don't think anybody's running away with that division, and even the wild card, even the wild card's still in it. So, it's still up for grabs. So, the NL is completely wide open. This is the most wide open I've seen the NL ever. Like, in my 25 plus years of watching baseball, this might be the most wide open National League in history. I mean, I really, 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 really have never seen it this wide open. I mean, think about it in the NL East. The Nationals were supposed to be this big time team. I think they're done. The Nationals are done. The way they lost on Sunday night, the grand slam, the Bodie, the guy coming off the bench in the grand slam. I mean, the Nationals are done. I think the Nationals are it's going to be 2015 all over again for the Nationals. Just a year that just don't fire for whatever the reason. And, that franchise and I love it. Couldn't have happened to a better franchise in my opinion, but that franchise is there's just something about that team. There's just something about that franchise. There's something about that culture. They got to break it up at the end of this year. I think they got to let Machado. I think they got to let Harper go. I think they're going to have to let Gio go. Some of those guys that have been there for a while during this run of theirs. And I think they have to, kind of start anew. Now, I don't think they're going to have too much to start anew from because they got Juan Soto and they got some pieces there in the minor leagues. So I don't think it's completely out of the realm of this. It's not going to be a long standing rebuild, but if I were the Nationals, I'd look to break it up because they just blew it. They had a window. They had a 5-6 year window to win a championship and they just couldn't get out of the first round. They couldn't win enough big games. Constantly choked in the playoffs. So I think the Nationals just blew it. I think they're going to be one of those teams, one of those franchises that just had a run that just could never capitalize on. So you look at the Nationals, I think they're done. And you got the Phillies and the Braves, and I'm still not sold on either one. I look at the Braves and the Phillies, and they've got a lot of young talent, exciting young talent, but I look at the teams as constant. I don't think the Braves are that great. I don't think the Braves are this phenomenal team. The Braves are, they're a nice little team, nice team. They got great young players, but I don't think the Braves are unbeatable. They're not world beaters. And the Phillies, I think the Phillies are better, but I don't think the Phillies are this behemoth. The Phillies can be beaten. So, it's wide open between those two teams in that division. So one of those two teams are going to win that division. You would think the loser of that is going to end up as a wild card. And then you got the NL Central. The NL Central, the Brewers are an enigma. I never get the Brewers. The Brewers are up and down. And I think they're up and down because their rotation sucks. Their rotation is terrible. The Brewers' rotation is terrible. Like, that bullpen is, they might have the best bullpen in baseball. When you think about it. Oh no, the Yankees still have the best bullpen in baseball, but I mean, I think they give the Yankees a run for their money. I think they definitely give the Yankees a run for their money with the old racist tweets over there and Knievel and the other cat. The Brewers have a very good bullpen, so that's what's kept them afloat, and their offense is incredible, obviously. But I don't love their rotation, and they're just up and down. The Brewers are win 5 in a row, then they'll lose 2 games. And the same thing for the Cubs. The Cubs are the ultimate enigma. Like, have you ever seen a team that has the best record in the National League or in their particular league? And they're kind of just been, I don't know how to put it with the Cubs. The Cubs I haven't been impressed with the Cubs the times I've seen them this year. The Cubs are I know that they've won a lot of games and they've got the best record in the NL, but I'm not impressed with the Cubs. They lost 7-0 today. The Cubs I said this about the Brewers. The Cubs are like the Brewers. They're really similar teams. The Cubs will go out there, they'll win 8 in a row, then they'll lose 6 straight. They'll win 3 out of 4, then they'll lose 2 out of 4. The Cubs will win 5 in a row, then they'll lose 3 in a row. The Cubs are just, I've never seen a team that's got the best record in their league and they've just been kind of, They've just been there. They're just kind of, I think their records are overinflated. Their interleague matchup this year was against the AL Central, which is the worst division in baseball by far, not even a debate. So, I don't think the Cubs are that good. I really don't. I don't love the Cubs. I don't think the Cubs are this behemoth. I don't think the Cubs are the behemoth that I think everybody makes them out to be. The Cubs are very beatable. And then you got the NL West that I talked about. So, the NL is wide open, completely wide open. But I'm really worried about the Dodgers because the Dodgers, they've got major injuries to major folks, and their injuries are not like the Astros. Like, eventually George Springer is going to come back. Eventually Altuve is going to come back. I don't know if Kenley Jansen is going to come back. I don't know that. And it's not like last year where they had Brandon Morrow that could fill in. This year that bullpen's just terrible. They're terrible. Kershaw's not the same guy. The rotation after him is not exactly, it's not the 2015 Mets. That bullpen sucks. Now you got Dozier on the DL with something iffy. Like, I'm worried about the Dodgers. Out of the 3 teams, I'm mostly worried about the Dodgers because the Yankees, I think the Yankees will still win the wild card. Now they may end up playing on the road in the wild card game, but they will win the wild card. Definitely. I think unless something catastrophic happens, I think the Yankees will still win will still win that wild card. And I think the Astros, push comes to shove. I know the A's and the Mariners have good records and are good teams, but I still think the Astros are in a class above them. And I still think when push comes to shove, I think the Astros will figure out a way to win a division, especially when Altuve comes back. I think the Astros are almost going to that time of the year, almost like the Warriors, where they were just kind of bored. It's like, hey, we had this deep run. We had this amazing season last year. We played deep into October and early November. They got off to a great start. And now I think they're just not taking their foot off the gas, but I think they're just kind of going through the motions. And I think eventually they'll pick it up. And I think that they'll eventually just win that division. I don't see anything drastic happening there. Now I could be wrong, and stranger things have happened. I am a Met fan, of course, and I've seen this team blow divisions 2 years in a row. So if anybody knows about teams choking and blowing big leads in the division, it's me. So trust. But I still don't think when push comes to shove, the Astros will lose that division. But the Dodgers, man, I mean, the Dodgers really have some issues. So I don't know what they're going to do. I think they need to right the ship somehow, some way. We'll see what happens.
Brothers and sisters, brothers and sisters, I don't know what this world is coming to.
Fouls of the week. And my foul of the week this week goes to the Broward County, the Palm Bay County, and the Miami-Dade County Police Benevolent Associations for their basic boycotting of NFL tickets. Because of the ongoing anthem kneeling controversy, if you want to call it that. So over the past weekend, obviously, the Miami Dolphins, Albert Wilson, I believe it was Albert Wilson, Kenny Stills, and Robert Quinn. Stills and Wilson took knees, and Robert Quinn raised his fist, basically in protest of the national anthem. You guys know the deal already. And apparently, the police officers unions have basically, ticket plans and ticket association with the Miami Dolphins or whatever. And, just kind of doing different events and basically they've canceled their tickets and, basically have boycotted the Miami Dolphins and say that they're not going to urge their members to continue with, purchasing tickets or getting the discounts for the tickets and basically having the partnership with the Miami Dolphins. And this is just funny to me. Like, it is amazing to me the level of denial and the bubble that these police officers live in. And again, I don't want to sit here and bash police officers. I have police officers in my family. I have police officers that are a friend of mine. Like, I think the majority of police officers are great cops. And the problem isn't the police officers. The problem is the institution of the police officers. The institution that makes it capable of bad police officers to continually be able to be bad police officers, that makes it possible for bad police officers to continue to get jobs, to continue to be protected, and face virtually no penalties, no criminal charges, nothing whatsoever when it comes to killing African Americans and people of color at a disproportionate rate compared to whites. That's the problem. And the problem I've always had with these police officers, and I always hear there's not, it's not every cop, it's just a few bad apples. And we know that. Like, I think most common sense thinking folks think that there's a lot of really good cops, and there's cops that are just good people that just want to go out there and just do good things. And maybe I'm naive. Maybe they're not, but I'd like to believe that. And again, I have family members in my family that are police officers. I have friends of mine that are police officers, and I believe that. I really do. I really believe that there's really good cops out there, but they're not the problem. Well, they are the problem in a way, because not enough of them speak up. Not enough of them throw their shitty ass fucking partners under the bus. Their shitty ass comrades under the bus. Not a lot of them. It's a good old boys network. They all stick by each other because, of course, if you ever say anything against a police officers, if you ever turn your back against the brotherhood, you're basically Serpico. You're basically fucking persona non grata, which is bullshit. And now the police officers union? Really? The police officers union? Why aren't they more upset? Why aren't they this upset when a police officer kills an unarmed black teen? Why aren't they more upset about that? Why don't I hear the Police Officers Benevolent Association come out and say, this is wrong, this is bullshit, this gotta stop, we can't keep having this. Yes, there's a few bad apples, but these bad apples are making it hard for all of us to be able to do our jobs. This is stupid. Why don't they come out with those stances when these things happen? But but we can't have NFL players protesting the anthem. Oh, we partnered into there was a quote where it said, we partnered in with the NFL and with the Miami Dolphins with the understanding that their players would kneel. Oh, really? Oh, really? Because kneeling is so much more important than police officers, doing their fucking jobs the right way and, not killing black people. And hey, PBA, I have a little bit of a secret for you. The reason why these players are protesting, and it started with Colin Kaepernick, is because they're protesting the fact that police officers are constantly murdering men of color at a disproportionate rate and getting away with it. So maybe, just maybe, if you guys, as a police union, a benevolent associate, whatever you want to do, and actually address these issues and made it an effort to, change the culture, bring down the institution that is this good old boys network. I don't know. Maybe players would stand for the fucking anthem? I don't know. I'm no expert. It's amazing to me. The police officers union is upset. They're butthurt. They've got their panties in a bunch. Stop killing black people. Stop racially profiling. Stop being occupying armies in some of these communities of color. Is that too hard? Is that too hard? I don't even want to get into an argument about the fucking anthem thing because there's no winning it. There's no winning it. It's just one of those things you're not going to win. You have your people who think that basically, people that kneel for the anthem are basically... It's amazing. There's more people that are upset. That includes the jackass that we have for a president. There's more people that are upset about NFL players kneeling during the national anthem than our own government, our own president, our own administration that is supposed to run our government, that is supposed to have the best interests of the American people, conspiring and colluding against a foreign enemy to win an election. There's literally more people upset about that than that. It's amazing. It's amazing. Oh my goodness gracious. And then you got this idiot Trump oh God, God help me. God help me. Yeah. God. Oh, man. But I mean, I read that story today and I'm just like, wow. And this is going to continue. This is going to continue because now the NFL is going to be forced to do something. Well, because their whole little anthem policy didn't do anything because what it did was now invigorated the players. Now it pissed off the players. Now they're saying, oh, okay. Y'all want to play that game? Guess what? We got power too. And I hope these fucking players mobilize and realize that they do have some fucking power. I hope they do. But I got police unions out there that are fucking upset because, Kenny Stills kneeled during the anthem. Well, how dare he? How dare he? That nigger should know that he's just lucky to be in America making $10 million a year to play a sport. Because that's what they're thinking. But all the guy is trying to say is stop killing my brothers and sisters. Stop killing people of color. Senselessly. Violently. And most importantly, getting away with it. I don't know. Just a thought. So my foul of the week goes to the Broward, Miami-Dade County, and I think Palm Bay and some other shithole place. Police benevolence associations. They're so benevolent. Yep. Those jackasses. God, unbelievable. It's just the hypocrisy of this shit. It's unbelievable. Where are they when fucking, when their cops basically shoot unarmed teens? Where are they? Nowhere to be found. I don't hear the police unions, take such a harsh stance against their cops that do fucked up shit. Of course not. Oh no. Of course not. We can't have that. Of course not. We wouldn't be doing our jobs if we did that. Unbelievable. Fouls of the week. Anyway, man, that's this week's show. I'm going to get up out of here. That's just that time of the year in the sports world. It's not, it's, I could have gotten into Tiger Woods and his comeback. I'm not excited about Tiger. I mean, look, I got to see more from Tiger. I know he had a great week. I know he had a great performance this weekend at the PGA, but I'm still not ready to say wholeheartedly that Tiger's back. Let me see him in a couple other tournaments. We'll see if he makes the Ryder Cup. I would imagine that he's going to make the Ryder Cup. I always know the Ryder Cup since September. If he plays well at the Ryder Cup, if he plays well in some other tournaments, then, we got to see Tiger win a tournament. That's the thing. We have to see him actually win a tournament before I can get excited. At least I do. Cause I've seen him have good performances before. I've seen him have decent performances before. So, Tiger's the ultimate tease right now. He'll have his performances. He'll have his days where he plays well. He's putting amazingly. His birdie's back. He's doing everything that, inspires confidence, showing glimpses of the old Tiger. And then he goes out and, it's like 16 over at the next tournament and just plays terribly and doesn't even make the cut. So again, I got to see it to believe it with Tiger before I'm completely sold. But I'm glad he had a good tournament. And I know golf's glad because their ratings were drastically better for their PGA tournament this year as opposed to last year. So the golf world needs him. Whether you can't stand Tiger Woods or not, you got to admit, golf is a lot more fun when he's in the mix. Bottom line. So we'll see. We'll see if Tiger Woods can make that comeback. But anyway, that's it. That's it for this week's show. There's not a lot going on in the sports world. Unless you want to get hot and bothered about James Harden or Carmelo and how he fits in Houston. Working on some guests. We got our college football preview show coming up in a couple weeks. Obviously we've got our NFL preview show in a couple weeks coming up. So I've got some guests lined up for that. I got some guests lined up for September as we, get ready to get ramped up for the postseason in Major League Baseball. So yeah, we got some big things coming up in the fall, man. So looking forward to it. One of the big things is the rebranding, the new name, the new logo. Got an update on that this week, so that's coming along great. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm looking to have everything changed over, finalized, relaunch, rebrand sometime in September. I wanted it early in September, but I'm not going to make that deadline. So I'm looking somewhat towards maybe the middle of September, no later than maybe October 1st. So yeah, we got some big things coming up in the fall, man. So, and obviously the return of football, return of college football, obviously NBA, the Major League Baseball postseason. So obviously the best time of the year in sports is coming up. So, yeah, we just got to get through a couple more, weeks of the dog days of August and we'll be out of it, man. We'll definitely be out of it. Even the TV season, man. It's like, TV shows are starting to come back now. Obviously Insecure came back on Sunday night. Better Call Saul came back last week, so two of my favorite TV shows are back. So I'm at least watching TV again, outside of just sports. So that's good. So yeah, man, we're getting through it, man. The summer doldrums, we're getting through it, man. We're getting through it. But yeah, man, that's it for this week's show. Thank you for everybody that listens and subscribes to the show. Like I always say, week in and week out, I won't ever stop saying this, man. Without you guys, there is no me. Without you guys, there is no podcast. So thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for listening week in, week out, for tweeting, for sharing, for reposting, everything that you guys do to show your support to the show. I can't say it enough. I'm so appreciative of it. I really am. I mean, I don't care who you are. I don't care how much of an ego you have. It's just humbling, the amount of love and attention and support that, any podcaster gets with his work, man. It's amazing, man. It makes the hard work and all that, all the things that, we as podcasters do. It makes it all that much more special when we have people that just support the cause, support the movement, support the dream. So thank you guys for listening, for supporting, man. It really means a lot to me. As always, you can always follow us. You can follow this show. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, anywhere where you can get podcasts for free. We're there. Follow us at the TF Podcast on Twitter, at the TF Podcast. Oh, I always fuck this up. At the TF Podcast 1 on Twitter and at the TF Podcast on Instagram. And then, of course, we're the Technical Foul Podcast on Facebook. Join the TFP Nation fan group. Yeah, man, that's basically it. That's basically it. We'll be back next week with another episode of the podcast. In the meantime, man, I hope everybody has a happy, safe, blessed rest of their week. Be safe out there, everybody. Stay cool. I know the heat in some parts of the country is still killing us. So I hope everybody stays cool, stay safe, drink a lot of water, stay hydrated. I am your host, Manny Fresh, and I am out of here. Peace.
Serious sound.